Hi, welcome to qascripts. In this video, we will learn what is use of static keyword in Java. The static keyword in Java, which helps to make the member of class is not associated with an instance of a class. Instead, the member belongs to class itself. In the sense, we can have n number of methods, we can have n number of instances in a class. If you don't use static, those classes will be available if you create a instance of that particular class or object of a class. But if you use a static for method or variable without using object, without creating object, you can call methods or variables in another class. We can access variables and methods of a class without first creating a class instance. Using a static keyword for a method would helpful in page object model. The page object model will be using very widely in Selenium WebDriver, where static keyword will be very useful, because for methods we will make a method as a static method and will use based upon the page, based upon the object in page object model. Static keyword can be used for variables, methods, block, as well as nested classes. When a member is declared static, it can be accessed before any objects of its class are created and without reference to any object. It means if we use static keyword, the variable what we have used static, that variable or method becomes integral part of that particular class. Hence you can access before any object. When suppose you have three methods and four variables, and you want to call those methods in another class, you have to create object. Until otherwise you create object of that particular class, you cannot be able to call methods or variables. But if we use static for any methods or variables without using object, you can call, because of the static is the one which is the integral part of particular class, and it gives more, or I can say that very high preference to the member of a class they have static. Why main method is static? If you observe any class which is having main method will be having static, because the common example of a static member is main. Main is declared as static because it must be called before any object exists. This means, say you have created one class and you wanted to execute from that class as well. If you don't have a static keyword for the main, then main method will not get executed. Before main method, something could have executed. To avoid that, if we use a static for main, this main method gets a higher priority than any other methods in that particular class, and it will get executed before any objects or methods get executed. Hence we always use static in front of main. Again, what is main? Main is the one method which acts as a main door for your home. Think that you have a home, beautiful home. If someone want to enter into home, you need a door for it. You may have n number of windows, like n number of methods, but using window you cannot enter into home. Like that, in a class you may have n number of variables, n number of methods, but using methods you cannot execute any program to enter into home, as we need a big door. Like that, to execute any class we need main, because when we start executing, JVM will look for the main which is having static keyword. Hence static keyword helps the main method to get executed before any other method or object get executed. Methods declared as static have several restrictions. Even though the static keyword gets more importance in a class, but it has some disadvantages or restrictions as well. Let's see them. One is they can only call other static methods. In the sense, if you use a static keyword for a method or a variable, using uh, not static, using class name can call those members. Without that, you cannot call it. They must only access static data. They cannot refer to this or super in any way. The keyword super relates to inheritance. Let's try to understand if we use static to a variable, how it behaves and how can we use in a class. If we use static to a variable, the variable can be used to refer common property of all methods that is not unique for each object. Example, company name of employees or college name of students. The company name would be same for all the employees. Like that, the college name would be same for entire student group. Static variable gets memory only once in class area at the time of class loading. Let's see how exactly a static variable will be created and how can we call in another class. Let's see using Eclipse. In this class, I have created two variables. One is int abc and I have assigned value as 100. This is instance variable. Whereas I have created another instance variable that is int xyz and assigned 200 as value, but I have used static keyword. So now this is a static variable. At the same time, I have two methods having static keyword, that is method 1 and having message called this is static method 1 and public static void method 2. The message what I am having inside here is this is static method 2, whereas method 3 is not a method which is having static keyword. Now I will create one more class having main method inside it. If I say test1 dot, as soon as I type the class name that is test1, all the members such as variables as well as methods which are having static keyword will be displaying immediately. For example, here xyz and method 1, method 2. These three methods are having static keyword in class test1. So this is a test1 class. Here I have static keyword for xyz variable as well as method 1 and method 2. Hence when I type the class name that is test1 dot, I'll be able to see all the member name here along with a small yes here. So yes in a red mark shows that these are the static variables as well as static methods. But where is another method, that is method 3? No, we will not able to see method 3 without using object. If you want to see method 3, we have to create object. Let's see how we can create a object and how to use it. Here I will say class name first, then obj equals to new test1. Now my object is ready. When I type obj dot, I'll be able to see method variable abc. This is non-static variable. At the same time, I can see method 3. This method is also non-static variable. Whereas at the down, I will also able to see xyz. This is a static variable, and method 1, method 2, they are static methods as well. So if you create object, you will be able to see static as well as non-static members. If you type class name, you will be able to see only static members. Hence the static is nothing but a keyword which makes members of a class very particular to that class only. Here is the one interesting point. Static variable will get the memory only once. It means if you create a static variable, this will have a place in memory only one time. For example, say one variable I have created with a static keyword, and I have assigned value as 10. So this 10 will be placed into memory and it's a fixed one. If you assign any other values to that same variable, that is going to add to that particular old value. It will not replace, it will add. For example, here I have a simple program. Before that, I have one more point saying that if any object changes the value of static variable, it retains its value. Yes, as I said, suppose a value, variable, a static variable have a value as 10, and it will get stored into memory only once. If you assign again, what happens? It will going to add to that original value. Let us look at the program in Eclipse, how exactly it's going to work and how exactly it's going to retain the old value. Here I have created one class saying static keyword 2. I have created one simple variable called count having initial value as 0, and I have used static keyword so that this is a static variable. As I said, this will get memory only once and it will retain this value, that is 0. In constructor, I have used count, but I have used incremental operator, that is plus plus. As we know, as you create a object, as soon as you create a object, the static not static constructor will get executed first. Hence here I have created 3 different object. As soon as I create 3 different object and execute, the constructor will going to call 3 times, but here I have count plus plus, so it will call first time and the value will get increased. But because the static variable will get only once in a memory, so the value what increases here, it will get added to here. So first value will be 0, then because of first object the count will increase to 1, it becomes result 1. Because of second object the count becomes 2, again the value will going to add, it will not going to change, it will not go, it will retain the old value, that is 1, and now it will going to add one more value, hence it becomes 2. Like that it will go on creating the new value so that it will retain the old value and it will get new value added. So instead of printing only one value, it will get increased by 1. That's what the result we are going to get after execution of this particular class. Sorry, that was the error from different class. Now let me execute this. So as soon as I execute, it is displaying numbers as 1, 2, 3, because I have used system.out.println count in the constructor. Hence what I can say here is the a static variable will get memory once in in a system, and it retains the old value. That's why first it will retain 0, and as soon as you create object, it will add 1 here, and it will retains and printouts. As soon as you create a second value, a second object, that is going to retain in the memory, and it will print it out here. So like that it will get increased. If you apply static keyword with any method, that method is known as static method. The static method belongs to class rather than object of a class. A static method can be invoked without need for creating an instance of a class. So that's what the example what I have given at the beginning of session, where I have created one int a static int variable and two static methods. One is method 1, another one is method 2, having static keyword. As soon as I type the class name, that is test1, I was able to see one variable, that is static variable, and two methods, that is method 1 and method 2. Static method can access static data member and can change the value of it. Let's see one beautiful example here. Here I have created one class called static keyword 3. First I will create a static variable, that is static int, and I will name it as static variable only, so that it's easy to identify. Then I will create one non-static variable, in the sense a instance variable doesn't have static keyword, so that is going to call as a non-static variable or instance variable at this time. And I will create a static method as well, saying static public void. You can see here I have used static keyword before public, but till now I was using public static void. It means that static keyword can be placed in between public and void, or you can also use at the starting of a method. That's not a problem, it will accept it. So here I have used static public void, and I have named it as static method because I have used static keyword. Inside the static method I am trying to publish one variable here, that is static variable, and I am trying to publish it out here. Immediately in the same method I will have incremental operator, so that the value will get increased every time when I call here. At the same time I have non-static method as well. Here I don't have static keyword, so that I am saying public void non-static. Inside the non-static method I am doing the same thing what I have done with the static method, that is I am trying to print out static non-static variable value, and here I am trying to increase by 1 by using incremental operator, that is non-static variable plus plus. At the same time I have one constructor here, that is the method which is having same name as class, that is constructor, and it will not going to have void keyword even though it is not returning any value. Inside the constructor I will have one simple message, that is constructor of static class, and here I have one static keyword. This is we are going to call as static block, and inside the static block I'll be having a message called static block code executes first. So these are the simple variables and methods and constructors what I have created. Now let's see the magic. I'll create one more class as static keyword 3 execute, and here as usual first I will create object using static keyword 3 class. As soon as I create object, let me execute the this piece of code and let's see what happens. As soon as I execute, I will get two messages. One is static block code executes first and constructor of static class. Here we know that since this method as this class has a constructor, and as soon as you create a object, the constructor will get execute first. Hence I will get the message called constructor of static class. But what is this message static block code execute first? Even though the static block is after the constructor, but here I am getting the message at first. It means that a class will give highest priority to static block then constructor. So here I can put in sequence saying that a class will give first highest priority to static block, second highest priority to constructor, and remaining priority to the other method based upon the calling. But here I have not called any methods, just I have created a object using class and executed. As soon as I executed, I was getting two messages. One is from static block because that is the first block it will get execute before any methods, before any objects methods. That's why here I'm getting static block code execute first, then I'll get the constructor message later because the constructor will get second priority when it compares to static block. If you don't have static block in a class, then obviously the constructor will get executed first. Let me type object here, obj dot. As soon as I type object dot, I'll be able to see non-static variable that is coming from static keyword 3 class and non-static method 2, and at the same time I'll be able to see static variable and non-static variable. Both static and non-static variable and method will come with along with object, but it's not the same case with class name. For example, if I type class name that is static keyword 3 and when I type dot, only static members will be available here. Let me type obj dot and let me call non-static variable first. Sorry, let me do some changes here. Let me call static methods first, then non-static method, and I will get executed. So now I will say static keyword 3 dot. Here is the static method. Yes, let me call it first. Then I will say obj dot and I will call non-static method 2. Let me execute this piece of code. So as soon as I execute, here I'm getting messages from static block as well as constructor as I explained earlier, and here I'm getting static variable equals to 0, non-static variable equals to 0, because here I have called static variable that is having a message called static variable, and by default the int variable will be having value as 0, hence it is displaying, and non-static variable also having int variable and the default value will be 0, hence it is getting displayed out here. Now I will call it again. For example, static variable I will call 2 times, and this also I will call 2 times, and let me execute this time. So what happens here is I'm getting static variable 0 first time, static variable equals to 1, because here I have used incremental operator. Hence when I call 2 times, it will add the value into memory and it will retain the old value. Hence it has become 1. At the same time here also, since I have called twice, first what happens, it will call non-static variable. Yes, it is a, but initially it was 0, it is displaying. As soon as I call again, what happens, it will add plus 1. Now the value becomes 1. The interesting point is here, what I'll do, I will have one system.out and I will put one line, dotted line. Now I will call both of them again, but with a different object. Let me say here object 2, obj 2 here. So let me create an object obj 2 equals to new and class name. Now I will call by using static methods as well as object. So I will say static keyword and I will call 2 times static variables, and this time I will use object 2 dot non-static variable, and let me call one more time and let me execute this. As soon as I execute, let's see the interesting point here. So here it is displaying static block executes first constructor of static class, that is as usual as I explained. They are the a piece of code or some of blocks, they will get preferences. Based upon that, the messages are getting printed out here. And a static variable initial value is 0, and when I call second time it becomes 1 because there is a plus addition operator or increment operator. But when I create object 2, as soon as I create object 2, the constructor is getting executed again. But what about static block? No, static block is not getting executed. That's why I was telling static is per class, not per object. Means one static block will only execute one for entire class. One static is applicable to entire class. So static block is per class, not object. Here I have created 2 objects. So as per our understanding, it should execute twice. No, it's not executing twice because it is not per object, it's per class. But constructor is per object, hence how many times you create object, those many times the constructor will get executed. Here static variable is 2 and 3. So if you observe the values, continuously the values are getting increased in case of static variables, because this will retain the old value in memory. Once it's stored into memory, it will retain the old value. And since I have used addition operator, that is increment operator, as soon as you call first time, it will have 0 because static variable is int variable, default will be stored, and next time it will call and it will get increased by 1. And once you create object in the second section, but here the second object is not going to be a problem or it's not going to affect anywhere, but we have used static keyword for that particular method, hence I can call using class name. So as soon as I call by using class name, see the old value is getting added again, hence the value is become 2 and 3. But whereas non-static variable, the static variable, non-static variable are going to put the value freshly because the object is fresh one. As soon as a second object got created, the variable value also start from fresh, hence it is displaying fetch value. Like this we can use static keyword to variable that is nothing, that is going to call as static variable, and you can call this static variable in another class by using its class name only. There is no need of creating object. If we use static to variable, that variable is going to call as static variable. And also if you use only static keyword alone, then that class, that piece of code or block will going to call as a static block, and that static block will get highest priority in a class than any other methods or constructor. Not only that, the static block is going to execute once per class, not per object. So don't get confused with the static keyword and static block. This is a simple block, whereas keyword, if you use to any method or any variable, that they are going to call as static variables or static methods. If you have any doubts or questions, please mail us using the mail IDs, that is info@qascripts.com or qascripts25@gmail.com. Also you can call us on this number, that is 8095916908. Thank you for watching this video.